As you stated earlier, 2016 was kind of frustrating, not just for GENNADY and getting fights, but for boxing fans in general. Big fights weren't being made, some were delayed, like you said, Jacobs, Triple G. But 2017 so far has actually been somewhat of a banner year for boxing. Like, they've had great matches. They had the FRAMPTON Santa Cruz rematch to start the year off. We had Jacobs and Triple G in March. We had Chavez Canelo, a fight that many Mexican fans and even boxing fans wanted to see. Might not have turned out the way we wanted it to go, but it was still a fight that we got to see. AJ versus Klitschko.
We had broken
Danny Garcia, broken Spence, Garcia Thurman.
Thurman was a great fight, yeah.
Porter Berto. We've gotten a lot of good fights coming out.
Chocolatito Sister Cat was a tremendous fight.
We get the rematch on September 9th.
I was there, and I could not believe it.
We get that rematch September 9th, the week before. And do you think 2017 is like the benchmark now for boxing? Like what they need to do to go forward to regain fans? Because this year, people have been talking more about boxing than they have in the past because they've been talking about more MMA. Yeah. Boxing kind of retook a lot of the MMA momentum this year. Do you think going forward, boxing needs to look at 2017 and say, okay, this is what we need to do. This is the formula to get boxing back to where it was?
I really don't think it's that complicated. It's I think 2017 is really the best year that I can remember as far as overall boxing. You know, and I really look at the Canelo Triple G fight as kind of the icing on the cake. But when you make the fights that the fans want to see, the fans will respond. You'll get the TV ratings, you'll get the sold out arenas. You know, if Joshua had fought somebody else, there's no way they would have fought. They would have gotten 90,000 people in the stadium. They would have fought at the O2 again and sold out the O2, and it's kind of like that type of thing. And if Canelo's not fighting Triple G or vice versa, you wouldn't have this type of reaction. So, when you make the fights the fans want to see, that's when they'll respond. And I really think it's kind of a lesson to for the promoters to work together. I mean, with this September 9th show, not only with the Chocolatito rematch with Sister Cat. INOUE, a lot of people are looking forward to seeing INOUE fight live over here.
I've been talking about that for a very long time.
He's one of those guys that, just like with Triple G, where a lot of people have heard about him or heard about his punching power. INOUE's got kind of this mystique as far as already being on some of the pound for pound lists, and no one's ever seen him.
Yeah.
So at least not over here in Japan. Naturally, he's a star, but he's got a great matchup against Nieves from Cleveland, and then you got CUADRAS against ESTRADA. I mean, when you got those six, that's probably the best collection of 6 fighters on a show in one division that I've ever seen.
Yeah. And you don't have a venue right now. We're trying, almost.
I want to ask you about that because, like Chocolatito was, kind of universally the #1 pound for pound fighter. Then he lost. And I was kind of afraid.
He lost controversially.
Controversially, right. I mean, but
that's why
he takes the loss.
Yeah.
Exactly. And luckily it was controversial, I think, because I was afraid when he lost that kind of HBO would abandon the division. And with all these guys that you just said and all these matchups that can be made, I was like, man, I really don't want to not see these guys anymore. I really want these guys to get the platform they deserve. Is it difficult to kind of try to convince HBO to kind of go into divisions that maybe they're not used to or aren't generally popular or whatever? I mean, how did you do? You've got 6 of the top, like you just said, the top guys in the division, all fighting each other. It's amazing.
It wasn't easy, and it's actually each guy is a different promoter. So I was doing with 6 different promoters.
Yeah.
So you got to give the fighters and the promoters credit for agreeing to fight each other on that show. But that's what boxing takes. It's not building my brand or building a promotional brand. It's like, let's put on the best show for the fans. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but I think September 9th is going to be, a lot of people told me once we announced it on social media, it was like, this is the best show of the year, as far as top to bottom. And that's why so many people are waiting for where the venue's going to be, to see where they're going to,
hotels and stuff.